Welcome to the Not Null Podcast. I'm just an AI voice. But here are your real hosts, Kevin Doyle, Paul Bratzlovsky, and Sarah Kimmel.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast, the technology podcast where we talk about everything from AI to VR and robots to flying cars. This week, I'm joined by Sarah Kimmel and Paul Bratzlovsky, and I am Kevin Doyle. Coming up in this week's episode, we will talk about Spotify started adding clone AI voices for language translation for some of their podcasts. Amazon invested just the $4 billion in Anthropic. Meta Connect was today. We're recording this the day that Meta Connect was. So we have our reactions to the Quest 3, the new AI stuff that they rolled out, and those swanky Rayban sunglasses. And then we'll finish up with our null, not null recommendation section where we recommend that you avoid a product or service. Okay, let's talk about Spotify adding cloned AI voices for language translation. So they've partnered with OpenAI, and they're going to basically produce a podcast in another language. It's starting out with Spanish. So they've started rolling some of these out with a select group. And basically what happens here is your podcast, they take in the English version and they create a foreign language version of that podcast. But it's not just that, because they use the original person's voice or a version of the original person's voice too, which is great. So the examples that they have, there's a few. They have a Dax Shepard podcast, they have the Lex Friedman podcast, and they've translated those into Spanish, and you can listen back to them in Spanish using AI representations of those people's voices. Kind of interesting way of doing this. So apparently, the crazy thing here is that I'd read that they only need a few seconds of audio to train the AI, which I thought is very interesting, because anything else that I've seen requires minutes, if not much longer. So I know 11 Labs requires a lot longer to record the voices. I know the Apple one on the phone it was ridiculous. It was like 100 phrases or 50 phrases or something. It took like 20 minutes to train the voice. And it's not even that good, to be fair. So if this thing can do as good a job as it seemingly has done, and it only takes a few seconds, that's kind of, OpenAI, they're using the Whisper technology is what they're using on the back end. It's pretty good. But Sarah, what do you think about this? Is this going to catch on? Do you think we'll see a wider rollout than this limited release? And are you interested in, I guess, getting a podcast in your native language if it means it's delivered by a foreign or by an AI voice? Let's say that there was a Spanish podcast that you wanted to listen to, but you wanted to get the English version. Would it interest you to get it in an AI voice? Is it a product you'd use?
Yeah. So if it's an AI voice, I think it would annoy me. Like, I hate anytime I'm like on TikTok or anything and I hear that like blah 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 blah. Like, I can't stand it. I swipe as fast as I can because I hate that AI voice. I mean, and it sounds like a regular voice, but like it's just really annoying. So if it's that kind of voice, I would be very hesitant. And especially when I'm like listening to Audible books, there's some books that I just can't listen to because I can't stand the voice of the person saying. So it would be interesting though, if it could mimic our own voices. One thing I think is really great about the Not Null podcast is all four of us have very distinct voices.
I thought Paul sounded like you. I don't know.
Yeah,
very
sounds
close.
exactly
Very
like
close.
me. I mean, we've got the British accent from Kevin. We've got Paul with a little bit of Natasha in there, and and then Bobby, who's got that Southern accent, and then I'm the token chick. But
I was going to say California.
Well, sure, there's that. But I think we all have like really unique voices. And I think that's one thing that makes our podcast great is the unique voices. So if they could mimic that and translate it into other languages, I think it'd be super beneficial for people in other countries and for, smaller podcasts like ours to get a more wider, listener base. But if it's going to be some like weird voice, like I just don't see people like really glomming on and like listening to it.
I would love to see what it could do with ours, because then, I guess you'd be the harshest critic of your own like product, right? You really would. You'd hear your own voice be like, well, that sounds nothing like me. But then somebody else listens to it and you're like, oh, actually, that does kind of sound like you. So the sample that I listened to of the Lex Friedman one, it does sound like him in Spanish. It was actually kind of impressive. It's like, it sounds like his voice, like he could actually speak Spanish. Kind of. It was like, it was okay. You know, you can still tell it was AI, but it's closer than just the generic voice, I guess. I'd love to hear what ours sounds like. I hope they do open it up and we can, you know, we can participate. I would totally have the option of doing that. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty awesome. Especially if there's a podcast that you just don't speak the language. I think just getting the content, and if it sounds like the original author, even if it's like AI cloned, I think that's pretty cool. And there's a lot of other things popping out. I think not just Spotify. I saw one on Twitter. I'll throw in the link you could share later. Is they were actually doing a video translation, but it also has the ability to lip sync. So the mouth matches the language, which is kind of insane. Cool. And so I think like if they do that, that kind of, you know, helps you kind of be more immersed, even if it's not 100% perfect. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I saw this. The example they had on there, the MKBHD one, I was like, oh, it really does sound like him, and the mouth's moving correctly too. I was like, that is impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Like the question I have, it's as AI keeps getting so good, you know, how do we be able to tell what's actually real and what's not? The more deeper sense of question, maybe like a year from now, you know. But
yeah, I mean, just think where we have come in the last year. It's, you know, and we're not even up to a year yet, right? Since we started talking about kind of the early days of this with ChatGPT was kind of last November. We're coming up on a year, but it's, you know, just under. And it's like, if you start looking back, we've actually come quite a long way in a very short period of time with this stuff. It's getting way better. Some of the things that we initially had apprehensions around and said, well, that's kind of terrible, are getting better and better every single iteration of this. So this week, Amazon made a $4 billion investment. That is billion with a B investment in Anthropic. That's all. Exactly. Well, they actually spent $1.25 billion, I guess, for an initial minority stakehold, and they're saying it's going to be up to $4 billion. So they've kind of pledged $4 billion, if you will, with an initial $1.25 billion, which for Amazon, you know, I mean, it's a lot of money, but, you know, this is Amazon too. This is following, obviously, Microsoft's $10 billion investment in OpenAI earlier this year. So it's, you know, less than half of that, but this is basically an investment in a competitor. This is Microsoft investing in OpenAI and Amazon saying, well, we're going to invest in this other company, Anthropic, and we're going to give them $4 billion for a minority share stakehold. I don't think they've said how much exactly, just a minority stakehold is what they've said. So I don't know how much that is, that investment, how much they gain. It's obviously not more than 50%, right? They're obviously valued at more than that. So earlier in the year, actually, Google also invested in Anthropic as well, $300 million. So, you know, a little chump change from Google, apparently. But they threw $300 million Anthropic's way. So Anthropic is a company that was started by some former OpenAI employees. They started Anthropic because they basically didn't like the way that OpenAI was going, and they didn't like that it was becoming a closed kind of thing. And so they opened up this Anthropic thing, which they think is more open. And I guess they've been more open with their models and that kind of stuff. But basically, if you haven't heard of them, it's Claude. So the LLM chatbot is called Claude, and that's pretty much what they've done so far. That's their kind of big thing. It's kind of gone under the radar unless you really kind of like paid attention to AI and LLMs and chatbots. It's not the one that people talk about. Obviously, OpenAI and ChatGPT being the biggest, and we've heard about Bard and we've heard about Bing Chat, but Claude's kind of like been kept under the radar a little bit. It's kind of, I think it's a little more stealth. It's kind of, maybe it's fourth in the line, I think. So Paul, have you used Claude? You think this is a good move by Amazon? You surprised they're not making their own version?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't used Claude. It is definitely under the radar. So I'm actually curious to learn more about it. But I think, to me, I'm not surprised. You know, Amazon is trying to get, involved in AI. I think all the big corporations are going to do that because, you know, that's where the future is with all the AI stuff. But what I am kind of interested here, it's like you see Google, you see Amazon, you know, they're investing huge amounts of money that a small business just can't do. And so when I think about this AI technology, it is literally going to be controlled by the big players, and for two reasons. Because one, it's very expensive to train those models, and two, it's very expensive to run the infrastructure. And so I was really excited about like this open source, kind of concept, like having some open source models that you could do, but at scale, I still won't be able to afford to pay for that service if I had to kind of maintain the infrastructure myself. And so to me, I'm kind of like scared that it is being kind of not something normal citizens could partake in, and it's going to be controlled by huge corporations that could kind of decide, what the model does, how to use it, and we're going to have to pay them, as a service to use it, and that's the part that I'm kind of like a little bit nervous around, because it's like I'm always, the 1984 book, and I'm like, it's like, who's in control? And just like on Twitter, they're like, oh, we could, or social media in general, they could have bots that kind of help to sway people's opinion. And like, who decides what data is the right data? Do you make it more liberal? Do you make it more conservative? Do you make it, there's always going to be a bias. And the more we interact with them, the more sway they feel we might be able to get. I know we're getting to like that crazy tin hat theory conspiracy, but I'm glad that other companies, competing with each other, because you don't want to have one big player. But at the end of the day, they're all like big players, and it's going to be like the 4 big or 5 big companies that's going to rule the world. And what was interesting, there's a AI company that we use that offer like a pretty cool product. They allow you to train or have a chatbot that is aware of your documentation, and then you could ask questions about your documentation. And when I talked to my friends originally about that company, they're like, oh, they're like rolling out their own thing. And then later come to find out they are using OpenAI under the hood. And I think OpenAI has like a corporate plan where you get a little bit more. Maybe you could fine tune the models and stuff like that. And to me, that's crazy, because it's like even companies can't afford to build something at that scale without like a huge investment.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about it. I mean, Amazon, one of the biggest companies in the world, is investing in a third party. Like they're taking this $4 billion and giving it to a third party. I mean, billions of dollars are changing hands because of this AI these days. So the money that's in it is insane. And we're talking about something that's like become popular over the last 12 months. If we'd have been here 18 months ago, Amazon wouldn't be investing $4 billion in some startup called Anthropic. It wouldn't be a thing. Like, we'd be laughing about it. Like, of course they're not. It's insane. It's insane now. But yeah, it's and you're right. It's controlled by a few companies. It really is. There's Google who's got theirs. There's OpenAI who have got theirs, and there's these couple of other smaller ones like Anthropic, who we say smaller, but their company valuation must be huge for Amazon to give them $4 billion for a minority stakehold. I mean, These aren't small companies.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is that everything kind of is going like this idea that I forgot who said it. Like, it's again very conspiratory. It's like you will own nothing and you'll be happy kind of deals. From the standpoint that if you look at the right for repair, the way a lot of the devices are made, they're made very niche with like very specialized equipment that normal repair shops can't afford, and it's so they could create that stuff at scale. Thus, in theory, bringing down the price. So instead of maybe owning it, you just pay for the subscription. Like, you could buy an iPhone now where it's like a ongoing subscription, and you could renew your phone like every couple of years. So it's like, it's not so much about owning, it's about renting. And now same thing with AI. I don't think like normal individuals will have that power to say like, oh, this is the model I train. I own this infrastructure. I decide what happens. I think that's something that, again, is going to be controlled by the bigger organizations, and we will be paying, like a service fee, and we're still at the whims of what they do. And so I've been using ChatGPT for a very long time, from very beginning. And you notice that there's certain prompts that you ask now that it'll give you back like a different response that it used to. Now it'll be like, oh, I can't write this post around because you might mention like copyrighted material. Not saying that it's wrong, but the fact that they're able to influence what the response is, and we don't have a say of what the changes are, you know.
What would be interesting is if, the like OpenAI starts taking advertisers. So I ask, ChatGPT, what's the best like taco stand near me or whatever. And they're like,
it's whoever paid the most.
Exactly. And so when you start like, because anywhere that you see people consuming content in droves, the ads are sure to follow.
100%.
Oh yes.
So
let's hope
that
that doesn't happen at a kind of an open AI level, right? It can happen at a ChatGPT level, but if it happens at an open AI level that's then baked into everything, that's going to be a problem. It's almost like you want the end product to be able to have that or not have it. Because I agree, it's coming. There's no doubt it is coming.
Right.
There's no way that it's not. Have you seen the state of the internet these days?
Yeah.
Like it's an ad with some information baked in.
Exactly.
Like, it really
it's
is.
an ad with like a letter, and you have to watch a bunch of ads just to get a sentence. Yeah. No, the crazy part about this is that it's 100% going to happen. And you're right, Kevin. I hope it's on ChatGPT level and not like the complete OpenAI like infrastructure. And one of the interesting things about Unity debacle with the pricing and stuff like that, one of the reasons why they had their original plan is because they wanted to say, hey, you could sign up for, by the way, changed everything. So people are no longer as upset. They're still really upset. But the idea was that we're going to have,
we made a mistake.
we're going to have this plan that's going to be so ridiculous and make no sense to you that you could do our other plan, which is like ad sharing revenue, is that you allow us to show. So basically what Unity was trying to do, based on what I heard, is that they were trying to move more people on the ad model. So they could say, hey, we are a huge platform where you could have mobile games and other games where you have so much traffic that it makes sense for ad agencies to show ads in your devices. And so what they're actually trying to do is to get into like the ad industry, like, YouTube does, showing ads, or, any one of those other social media platforms. And to me, like, that's will be unfortunate if it happens, because it's like, who's paying the most? And, yeah.
Yeah. And with the $4 billion investment, like you're going to have to make money. And how are you going to make money on something like ChatGPT? You're not going to, they have a paid tier, but who's paying that? Like nobody. And so you're going to have to figure out a better way to make money from the platform. And, unfortunately,
and that's
ads are the way to go.
Yeah, we've become so used to freemium, haven't we? It's this free version of all of these things where we sell our kind of the rights to show us an ad or the rights to use our data or whatever it is. That's the model that we're kind of used to, and I think that's going to continue on.
But what I'm hoping is that they do have reasonable pricing for using their APIs and allowing like individuals who have an idea that they want to use the services, that it makes sense. To build stuff. So I think like what I ideally want to see, like I love that companies investing, and I hope that they have their services, but at the same time they have access to their API. So it's like you don't really quite want to use, let's say, whatever model, Amazon will have to like show you ads or whatever the product is, doesn't matter. You could just pay to have access to the model, and you could create your own service. And maybe you decide to be the person who will make a thing that will show you ads or not. But I just want to make sure that we have the freedom to either use the products they create natively or at least have access to their API so we could create the services that we want.
This brings up a good point too. They haven't said how they're going to use this, by the way. Yeah. They've just said, we're just investing $4 billion. We have no idea what they're going to do with this. Is this for use in, I don't know, Prime, like shopping? Or is this like, is it going to give us recommendations that are better? Or is it just like, is this going to replace the ask the thing a question? Or is this Alexa related? Or I don't know. We don't know yet.
What's interesting, what's interesting to me about the $4 billion, I wonder how much of that is actual like money, because they did say they're going to allow them to use AWS. So is it like worth of AWS cloud services, that like, cause then that's not, I mean, it's still costing them money, but it might not really cost them like $4 billion worth.
Although on the other, I was going to say on the other note, like I've been using ChatGPT recently to write like just blog posts, and I'm starting to detect like these patterns, especially if you're lazy with your prompting, that you could right away tell it's going to be a terrible post with terrible content and complete garbage. And I think they're doing it on purpose because OpenAI is like, all these people are trying to make quick buck with having OpenAI write articles. And that's going to basically
and no one's paying
pollute the web. Yeah, not paying us. Yeah. And so it's going to pollute the web with all the trash. And so we're going to fight it by making them write really bad articles that no one will not want to publish them. So we have this thing called Write for the Community, and somebody wrote an article. And usually when I ask people to write an article, I ask, hey, can you provide an outline? And, what the article will be about, so I could like at least approve the process of you writing it. And then they wrote an article and I read it and I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, clearly this was AI generated. And as a experiment, I didn't even go to like a AI checker. Yeah. I just literally took the outline they had, put it into ChatGPT. It spun out like same article with slight variations. Yeah. Same, like in the world of like, I'm like, like every article now, open it like with ChatGPT, it starts with like in the world or like in the today's like day and age, or like it's always something dumb like that. And so I was like looking there, I'm like, obviously I'm going to reject the article. And I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, man, there's so many people that are like, cause we charge for like a beginner, very basic article is $100. And I'm like, that took me 2 minutes. And if you get $100 for 2 minutes of work, I'm like, God bless you. But I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, what are you doing? And, like, so but the other part of me, I hate rejecting people. And so I was like, man, I'm going to hurt their feelings. Although they literally took 2 minutes with no effort. So I figured it out. I asked ChatGPT to write the rejection, so I don't feel bad. So it's like their AI is being rejected by my AI, and so like
no one's feelings get hurt. It's all good.
No one's feeling, because computers don't have feelings, exactly. And so that's I love it. And so, but yeah, it's pretty insane. It's
related to that. My friend, her husband is a professor, and he like put his essay question in ChatGPT to like just see what it would spit out, and literally got 5 students that submitted the exact response that he got from ChatGPT. I'm like, are you not even thinking about how other people can maybe use this same tool?
And it's funny because it will spit out a different version of it, but it is ever so slightly different.
It's a pattern.
It's the same.
It's the same
if you
pattern,
read it, the structure ends up being exactly the same. It might use the odd word differently here and there, because again, people use these things and they don't understand that it is just a series of characters. It's just a series of words that get stitched together. There's only a finite number of things that actually make sense for the context that you're giving it. And it'll just give you variations of it. It'll keep the structure the same. And it's funny, if you ask it to rewrite something too, you give it a whole article and be like, hey, you can rewrite this. And if you're just lazy about it and just say, hey, can you just rewrite this, and give it no other context, its own style is so bad. Yeah. It's the worst. It just adds in, it makes it so like verbose. It just adds in words for no reason. It'll just add these very
repetitive.
It's very repetitive, and it just adds in like these, I don't know, like flourish words that are in natural language are just entirely unnecessary.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to say that's OpenAI in the back end. That like, you know what? We have to stop these lazy people posting blogs. We're going to fight it our own way. And so if that's the truth, kudos to them. But for those of you who are trying to figure out how to make your articles or what ChatGPT returns a little bit better, like take some time. So I have many workflows, but I'll give you like a very basic one. So what I typically do, like I'll think of a topic, and I will make the outline myself. Then I will go and research stuff on that particular topic, and I will take notes. And then I will take my notes and I will pass it to ChatGPT. And then I would ask it based on my notes, like summarize this, write this, and then I'll have it write me a draft based on that. And half of it will be trash, but it's like a good starting point. And then I'll just like edit it. And then it sounds normal and great. But most people just want to make that quick buck for 2 minutes of work.
Let's talk about Meta and their Connect. What would you call it? Is it a Connect presentation? What is it? A Connect conference? What is it?
I mean, you're
stuff?
about to say presentation, but I don't know if you would call it presentation based on your earlier description. And I could confirm watching parts of it.
Can confirm.
Let me give you my, let's just talk about the thing today then. The event, the keynote, if you will, the event that happened today. The Mark Zuckerberg keynote today. So weird. Okay, firstly, it started late by about a half an hour. After they'd eventually got it going, which I'm guessing was some technical issues. You don't start something late unless there's a problem. When they eventually got it going, their original feed was canned and they started a new feed. And I'm there watching this thing thinking, man, somebody at Meta today is totally getting fired. Like, they have done, this is bad. Zuckerberg's there, twiddling his thumbs backstage, waiting for this thing to go live. And, some dude's trying to push the go live button and it's not working. So the initial out of the gate was okay, that's interesting. Then when he did take the stage, he took the stage for about an hour, right? It was a little less than an hour speaking eventually. It was about 45, 50 minutes, I think, something like that. It wasn't a full hour. He kind of, it was weird. He kind of ranted through stuff. It didn't look scripted. He looked really nervous and was actually physically sweating, through his shirt. You could see it.
It's so bad.
It just wasn't confident.
This is why Jobs wears black.
Yeah, I mean, he was wearing black too, but you could see it was that, it was a dingy black, so it was you could kind of see where he was sweating. And he was umming and ahhing through it. And at one point, he just said, he finished presenting something and just said, "So that's that." He was just it was so weird. It felt like we've seen lots and lots of tech CEOs do these super polished presentations. We almost expect that now. This wasn't that. This was him being I think there was a teleprompter of some kind because you could see it at one point. I think he skipped some of the stuff that was on it, or just maybe had bullet points on it. And he was just riffing on the stuff. It just felt it was weird. It was like us talking now. It was very just there was people there, and it felt less like a presentation, more like a conversation, which just felt weird. It just it was wrong. I didn't like it.
No Mother Nature sketch?
No, there was no Mother Nature sketch. No. I mean, maybe there's something to be said for not planning too much. So there was none of that. It was completely live. I get it. It's not easy to be live. I understand that. It's not. No. Even if you are a billionaire tech CEO and have done this a million times, it's not easy. But it did seem very unrehearsed and very kind of slapped together. He kind of moved bits on in very strange ways. There was no real written segue between pieces. At one point, he's just I'm going to make an awkward segue now, and actually said it. And yes, it was an awkward segue. Well identified, Mark.
You succeeded. Great job.
Yeah. So the whole thing was weird. So that's just my initial takeaway from it.
Paul was saying, "Wait, what? That was today? Oh shoot! Yeah, I'll be right there."
Yeah, no, seriously,
that's it.
Seriously, I think I have many theories. I'll tell you a few of them. But the first theory I had is that that MetaQuest is supposed to go on sale October 10th. Maybe he got confused and thought that this event was happening on October 10th and that today was a rehearsal. And then they're like, no, this is not a rehearsal. You got to go. He's like, oh.
So therefore he can show up late because he shows up whenever. Yeah, right? Hence the delay, hence the not being prepared.
Who cares? Exactly. Who cares?
You might be right.
And then, that's number one. And then the second theory, which is a lot more plausible and realistic, right before getting on stage, he got a text message from Elon being like, "I'll see you in the audience." And Elon's sitting there mean mugging him from the audience. And poor Zuck, he's like, "Are we having our MMA match right now? What is happening?" And Elon's just in the audience, probably in all MMA gear, they just don't see it.
He's ready.
Yeah, he's ready. He's like, "Come on." And so, he got a little bit nervous,
That's funny. It's one of those
100%.
two. I mean, it's definitely one of those two, right? It has to be. There's no other explanation for it.
Yeah.
That's 100%.
So yeah, the event kind of had a rough start. Okay, but when it did get going, they had three things they spoke about. They kept going back to these three pillars of things. Quest 3, something called AI Studio, which we'll talk about, and the Rayban Meta glasses. So let's start out with Quest 3. Quest 3, we got a little bit more details on it. He did only talk about 15 minutes about Quest 3. It was kind of quick. He kind of went through it like it was the first thing they talked about, and he did go through it kind of quick. There was no other real details he spoke about. There were some details later on that other presenters talked about, but he kind of gave you a quick kind of overview of stuff. So a couple of things they talked about. Xbox Cloud Gaming is coming to it, which I thought is awesome. If you use Xbox Cloud Gaming, it's great. It's a super good service that's coming to it. They called it, and this is a quote, they called it the best value spatial computing headset on the market. So they have now adopted spatial computing headset, a la Apple. They've basically taken that and they've said, and ours is cheaper than theirs. It's the only one on the market. That's basically what they're saying.
That's the fancy marketing way to say, nanner, we've gotten...
They took plenty of digs at Apple, too. They basically said a bunch of times that it doesn't have a cord and no battery pack, no external battery pack. So they had a little bit of a dig at that, too.
Yeah.
So they did say that. But they did also say that they're now calling this is a mixed reality headset. This is no longer a VR headset. This is now mixed reality. They say the pass-through is good enough. This is now a mixed reality headset. That's the way they're marketing it. It's right here on the website. It is totally mixed reality now. It has AR functions. You can go totally immersive, but it is now, they're calling it a mixed reality headset. So it's kind of interesting. A couple of other things they're doing. One of the cool things they're doing in AR was persistent digital objects. This was super cool. This is like, so if you have this, basically your headset can now map out your room. You no longer need to set a boundary. So what you have to do is set a boundary, right? If you ever use one of these headsets, you set your boundary. You no longer have to do that. The scanning on the headset will map out your room for you.
That's cool.
And the great thing about that is it will remember what room you're in, and you can have digital persistent objects. So if you put a screen up on a wall or a picture on a wall or an object in that room, it will stay there the next time you turn your headset on. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Saying that's cool? You're not freaked out by that at all?
No.
Like even a little bit?
I think that's amazing. I think that's amazing. I am in for this.
If Dexter, I don't know if anybody watched Dexter, really good show.
Yes.
By the way, he had some issues. If Dexter had that in his house, like we only have one episode. You know what I'm saying? It's like, where's my digital coat hanger? It's next to that saran wrap around that person. So I'm not saying, I mean, that's a good thing. Like you probably, should, find criminals, but in terms of privacy, like how's that work? Like,
when you first said Dexter, I forgot that there was a serial killer. No, even like I was going Dexter's Lab, like straight away.
You went. That's another good classic show, by the way. But I was gonna say, if you have a messy room, it's like, who knows about it? Is it just you and it stays on your device, or they're like, man, that Paul Braslavsky, he's got like cat toys everywhere. His table's in the middle of his living room, lopsided, just because he was too lazy to move it back after vacuuming. Like, what's up? Well,
back to the Dexter thing, and not Dexter's Lab, but Dexter the serial killer. It would be interesting if in the future, like these maps, these room maps, like from Apple, from Meta, like become subpoenaable, like where I can subpoena the map of your room of what it looked like on a specific date, to look for.
So like Minority Report type of stuff. Wow.
I'm wondering. I haven't thought about that, but I'm wondering. I don't know, but I'm assuming this goes over the network. The map of your thing does. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it stays on device. I think the Apple one said it stays on device, right? I think. I don't know if I don't know if Meta said that it does or not.
If they say it does.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Nothing stays on. No, everything's out over there in the cloud.
Yeah, but it is interesting. Yeah, I don't know about that.
But at the same time, like, minus the privacy, because we all know there's no privacy. Like, so, like, just let that go, everybody. There's no privacy. But, like, if we're beyond that. But I like the idea is that you have your real world, and then you have these virtual nice to haves that you could have around your house. Like, maybe, like you have your big screen TV, where maybe you live in a smaller apartment where realistically having a big screen TV doesn't make sense. So you just project it on the wall and you have your virtual room, you walk around and you're able to kind of like still like say like you're cooking, but you're able to like interact and watch. I don't know, like, but it's kind of cool. I like that idea. And for gaming, I think what's really awesome is that, so I really want, like, again, don't judge me, everybody. I live by myself, but like
everyone's judged you so long ago, Paul.
Blade Runner 2049, the second movie where the main character protagonist, he lived in an apartment and he had his AI generated companion. I'm not sure where I'm going with this conversation, but if you have your room,
I think we all know where we're going with
I think we know where you're going.
Generated, you could have like your AI assistant, like when you're cooking, instead of like reading the cookbook, you could have like an AI chef being like, hey, this is how you prepare food. This is how you cut the lettuce. This is how you do it. Or you might have like a personal trainer in your real environment that you're like, dude, the game I would make with that, just because my mind works in really messed up ways, is that it'll be called the experience. That's all the game is called. And you put it on and it projects the TV on the wall and you're in your mind thinking that that's the experience. You watch TV. But because it knows like the mapping of every room, it knows where your front door is, it knows where your windows are. And then in the middle of a movie, you just got a SWAT team attack. They jump into your house, freak the daylights out of you, like, and they yelling.
This is a good idea.
It's like gunshots everywhere. That'll be a crazy experience.
I think this is capable of doing that.
Yeah,
I do think they're kind of pitching that as being something. So they showed a Stranger Things experience where it is AR. So you can they put a portal in your wall and it shows you into like the upside down in Stranger Things. So it's kind of similar to the thing. It's like, yeah, they are saying you can have these kind of like interactive experiences that aren't real in your room. I'm looking forward to some of these things.
Don't judge me, but my daughter right now, she's like 23. Thank God. Because if she was like 8, 9, 10, the pranks I would play on her with these goggles, be like, hey, try this out. It's a great experience. And there's a big monster from the movie that she doesn't like right behind her, like breathing heavy. Like, oh my God. Oh, you could scare the living daylights out of your kids. This is amazing. I'm going to create horror experience for parents to prank their kids. I think they'll be hilarious.
I think some of the AR things we're likely to see on this thing is going to be fun. It's going to be interesting.
Man, thank God. Although I was just going to say, thank God Unity went back on their pricing because, with like you could build cool VR experience using Unity and C#. And man, if they lost that whole market, good Lord.
Yeah, there's this like song that I don't even know much about it, but my husband like put headphones on me yesterday and like started playing this song on his phone. And there's like knocking, right? And like, it's so legit that I like literally like turned around and was like, and he starts laughing, and then there's like knocking over here, and I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, isn't that trippy? Like, but I can see the same kind of thing where you're like, oh my gosh, there's people coming in my door and everything. Like, it's just that immersive.
Yeah. I'm excited for some of these experiences. I think it's going to be good. I pre-ordered one. Like, of course, I have a Quest 2. Why would I not get a Quest 3? They come out on October 10th. So you can order from today, which is September 27th, and they do apparently ship on October 10th. So they said you can get it from $4.99, but I think you've got to get, it's like 128 gig. You kind of got to get this one. It's the 512 gig. It is a significant price jump, but it's also a massive memory jump. These games, like these newer games that are coming out, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's only a half terabyte even then at 512 gig. It's not a massive storage on it. So, you're going to fit 4 or 5 games on it, and it's going to be kind of full. So, I think at this point, I think you need the bigger size. So they pitch it $4.99. I'd really expect to spend this, which when you've paid for tax and everything is close to $700. It was 690 something bucks.
Good Lord. Still worth it to scare the daylights
for gaming. I think these devices are great. And especially for this like immersive AR, like multiverse reality, or not augmented reality, but like whatever it said, like what's AR and VR? Like mixed reality. That's what it said. Mixed reality.
Yeah.
That's the word I was trying to find. I'm like MR. So with this like mixed reality experience, I think that's awesome for games and for like entertainment. I still don't see these going mainstream, even when the Apple one comes out, for like daily use and computing though. Like because they're saying this like, mixed reality, like computing, whatever, blah, 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 that they called it. But like, who's going to use this like all day, every day? And it just made me think of when 3D TVs were all coming out. like you had to have the glasses and everything, and they just didn't catch on because there's just too much that people aren't willing to like jump through these hoops for the experience.
Yeah.
And so it'd be cool to have like, computing and, whatever, like all around me. But am I really going to be doing that like all day, every day? I don't think so.
I think we're a minute away from kind of having these wearable full time. Firstly, the battery life is terrible on them. It's like out of the gate, it's like 2.5 hours or something, like on the battery that's internal on it. It's not great. So external battery is going to be like a necessity for this, even if you're just playing a game. So it's like the battery isn't there yet. And like you're going to walk down the street in this? I just don't think so.
Right.
It's just not. But I will say, I think Meta's attacking this problem because that's what they do want to happen, right? They want you to kind of wear this all the time, right? It's an everyday kind of thing, wear it all the time. And that's where the other device comes in today, which is more of a wearable all the time kind of device. They're attacking this thing from both ends. They're attacking this from, hey, we start with a pair of glasses and we start adding stuff to it. And we start with a VR headset and we start adding stuff to it. Eventually, they're going to meet in the middle. There's going to be, they got these two products. So the other product they had is the second generation of the Rayban glasses, which had upgraded cameras on it, the 12 megapixel ultra wide now, a microphone array on it, which apparently gives you a sound bubble. So when you're listening to music and stuff through them, only you can kind of hear it. It's like right around you, and apparently the sound is quite good.
Kind of like the AfterShokz headphones, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like you get the personal sound, but not everybody else gets to kind of listen to it. So that's kind of interesting. You use it for phone calls. Here's one of the cool things though that they did have. You can one of the features that they touted, which I think is great, was a ask a question about the world. They called it, and it was kind of like you can look at something. Let's say that I'm in France and I look at the Arc de Triomphe and I say, "Hey, Meta, what's that?" It'll tell me that is the Arc de Triomphe, and it'll give me, and I'll ask for some information about it. So it's like AI, or the Meta AI, which we'll talk about in a second, is built in to the glasses. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think they would need to partner with like Google Lens to like really have something worth wearing, where I can like turn on my translation tool and it can like translate, what I'm looking at in real time.
Right, you need the video feedback too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or like, hey, what am I looking at? Then, a bunch of stuff like that. But Google Lens just does that really, really well. And so unless they can kind of replicate that technology, the other, and you and I are glasses wearers, does it allow for prescription lenses to be entered into it? Is what I would want to know.
I think it does. They didn't really talk about that, but they did say there was the combination choices would they give you a massive amount of combinations now. So I think you can. I'm not sure.
I mean,
it would be silly if you couldn't.
Yeah.
Right. But with the original like Google Lens glasses or whatever, I don't remember what it was called.
The Google Glass. Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. Google Glass. Yep. Like those didn't have, prescription lenses. So
I'm pretty sure these ones do as an option. I'm pretty sure they do. So right now, I agree. Like that, the visual thing isn't there yet. Again, that's somewhere more closer to the middle of these two devices coming together.
Right.
So it's auditory at the minute. So you basically say, "Hey, what is that?" and it'll tell you what it is. It'll just read it back to you, which I think is kind of interesting. That means it can recognize the item that you're looking at, and it can tell you about the item. You can ask questions about the item. I think that's kind of interesting.
I see so many cool use cases because, like, I know one day I'm going to be 80 years old and no one's going to come visit me in the convalescent home. So I want to make sure that they have tech that I could have friends in VR come and hang out with me, even if they're not real. But think of like this idea with, at least with these glasses, because they're small enough and they get good enough. Someone who has Alzheimer's, and if they do walk out of the house and they're kind of not sure where they're going, like they could be like, "Hey, this is where you are. This is where you're going." It's so like I might not be able to remember it, but you could have some sort of cues that could maybe help you in some sort of way to manage it a little bit better. So I think it'll be kind of cool to see not so much like the gaming aspect of things or, computing side of things, but more of like, accessibility or having people who can't do certain things in their life have it as like an aid of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah. definitely.
That's so interesting because that's one area of technology that I've been actively looking for solutions for, because I just don't feel like there's a ton out there and nobody's talking about like what is available out there for our elder community. And something like that, yeah, could absolutely be helpful. I mean, my grandma, before she passed away, got lost. And, so at that point is when I was like, this is a huge problem that, people need to solve, because she didn't bring her phone with her. And so it's nothing you can like track on your phone. Yeah. But if it's like their glasses that they're in the habit of like putting on every day,
right,
that's something that can be really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Just looking at this too, by the way, Sarah, I don't think you can put prescriptions in these. It doesn't say that you can. So,
well, what
at least buying them from the store here, you can't. Maybe you can have them put in third party. I'm not sure, but
yeah, that one, that clear to 0 to 15 is what I was.
This one
kind of looking at, because that sounds like prescription numbers. No, the one right to the left.
Oh, this one? Yeah.
No, like there you go. That one. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is clear to 0 to 15. That seems like a lensy thing. Oh, to G15. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Looking at the options back on here, I think
that's a shade. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's
for those prices, those are definitely not prescription glasses. Oh my God. I got up my prescription the other day.
That's like regular prescription glasses.
I was like, what? How much?
Yeah, the options down here look the lens types. You can either get blue filter, transition, sun, or polarized. There's no option for prescription. So yeah, that does kind of suck then, doesn't it? That's
right, because I'm not gonna wear that because then I can't see.
Dual glasses.
Yeah. These do look cool though. I wasn't interested in this tech before, but I think it's getting better, because the fact that it had a camera on it was just like, okay, it's got a camera on it. Like, am I really that interested in that? This one, you can kind of like, the live stream thing they showed was kind of cool. You can flick between live streaming on your phone and live streaming on your glasses. You click a button and it flicks between the two, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious about, like, how's that work? For instance, like, there's certain places you can go to, you're not allowed to bring your camera, but now everybody has a phone, so it's not as crazy. What I've noticed, like, when traveling, you used to have a big DSLR camera, people always would freak out. But when I would be in same environments and taking pictures with my phone, like, people were fine. And now that you have the glasses with that tiny camera, it's like, here's the thing. If you think of Quest 3 having this mapping technology, oh my gosh, this is going to be just like in Batman, where they used phones to sono map the whole thing. Now you're going to be able to do it with the glasses. So everything is going to be, everybody's going to know where. If it's that stupid movie I talked about, The Circle, oh God. It's all coming
Freeman
true.
Destroyed
it's all
that.
coming
he said
true.
That's not technology that anybody
guess
should
what?
have.
Mark
Morgan Freeman destroyed it.
No, he didn't destroy it. Mark wrote him a note. He's like, I'm going to pay you handsomely to pretend to destroy it, but send it to us. I think that's why he was nervous at that speech, to be honest, is because he was introducing. He's like, oh man, I'm going to talk about room geolocation. Then I'm going to talk about
please, nobody recognizes this from Batman. He's like, please, nobody recognize this. Please, nobody recognize this.
He's like, they're going to catch on really quick. But here's the point. Like, that means that everywhere you're in public, where you have those devices, it's private, it's public content. And so I had a friend who told me about an acquaintance he had that made this app, which was like really stupid. But that's what developers do sometimes. He made an app where he could take his camera, and I saw it on some channel, I forgot. And he could just scan the room, and if people's Facebook or Instagram like profile is publicly available, it'll find them. And so he could basically like, oh, I saw this girl at a party. We're not technically friends, but I kind of stalked her on Facebook because now I know who she is. And I'm like, that's terrible.
That's
so
super,
now you
super
have
creepy.
Glasses, and that someone could write a program to do that. And so, like, I wonder, like, how's that going to work? And so, basically, it is crazy. It's like 1984 is going to happen by like the fact that we just technologically evolving, not because there's going to be some organization that wants to like lock us down and control us, but it's just with the advance of technology, privacy is just almost impossible to have. And so like there's like people will always be watching. Like think of like this, like back, like police brutality always existed because like there's always going to be some bad eggs in a bunch, right? It just happens. But it wasn't like front news because people didn't have, like, let's say, cell phones available with cameras.
Right.
And so now people are able to videotape and see it. And now we're going to be to a point where everybody, either on their phone or their glasses, has a camera. Everybody's always watching. And so by that fact, it's like, it's kind of like in China, they have like this idea. It's like, oh, if I see my neighbor doing something wrong, I could report them. Is that going to be a feature? And that's scary. But if you think about it, like it's such a natural extension to cross this line between like having freedom to, hey, like, and who, like, is it always recording? Where's the data stored? And because, it's like, and so they will have data that they could basically know your whole routine, where you go, where you shop, what are you buying, what are you looking at, and so like who controls that information? And
I don't think it's always recording. I think you have to prompt it to record. Plus, I think when it does record and the cameras are on, there is a light that's on it.
Sure, Jim.
Well, there is. Well, yeah, okay. You can be skeptical, but that's the thing. There is a light on it too.
Yeah.
So when it is recording, there is a light on the thing. But here's the thing: if you're the other person on the other end and you don't know what that is, you still don't understand. At least this point in time,
disable it. You put a little tape over it, or like whatever.
Probably, you probably could.
That is messed up because, first of all, like that should not be like. I don't like that idea for many reasons. Just because, like, think of like every time like you go to a public place, like you might go to a restroom, you might go to like whatever, you might go like a doctor's appointment, you might. So like I think they're like, I'm kind of curious what laws they're going to be around it, because it's like I think that's kind of crazy to do that.
You see mass adoption, and everybody has these on for sure.
Yeah, right. And they'll be wild. It'll be cool though, like if it identifies you're in a public area and like places could opt in, like you're not allowed to record here, and so they get disabled automatically or something like that. I don't know. I'm just whatever.
Maybe.
Well, I think that's what happened with Google Glass. Like people were saying you can't have that in here.
Yeah. But I think it was ahead of its time. I think today they wouldn't say that.
What if I go to a movie theater and I happen to have these glasses?
Yeah.
What does that mean if it's streaming my movie to my friends at home who didn't want to pay for it?
Seinfeld
exactly.
secretly recording the movie. The bootleg movie. There's a lot easier ways to get bootleg movies these days, Paul. So I don't think anyone's super concerned about that.
First of all,
as the guy like scratches his head and just looks
I'll tell you like what. Hold on a second. I'll tell you what killed bootlegging for me, especially with music.
Yeah.
When Apple Music came out, Spotify came out, where you could like it's so cheap, like for $10 a month, you can have any song you want.
Yeah.
So the process of bootlegging something, you have to download it, you have to wait for it. It's a good quality. Like I'm like, it's so inconvenient.
Yeah.
And so
the reason bootlegging took off and the reason Napster and those services did take off is because it was more convenient than everybody wanted the digital version of things. But nobody was selling the legal digital versions of the things.
Right.
And as soon as the legal digital version came out,
then everybody's
most of us were just like, oh, cool. Now we can just pay for it what we would have been doing anyway. You just didn't make it available. Now it's available. Now we're going to pay. And that's
that's why Napster died, because streaming services came out and be like, oh yeah, this is way easier.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll just pay.
Yep. Let's talk about their other pillar that they talked about then. So we talked about Oculus. We talked about their Ray-Ban glasses. AI. They talked about AI a ton in this thing. It was their other big deal. So the first thing they talked about.
I mean, who's not talking about AI?
But some of the AI things they have, kind of like, you're going to love these, Paul. I know you haven't seen this yet. You are going to love these, Paul. Firstly, AI stickers. Come on, I know that wows you, Paul.
Nice.
You can be in WhatsApp or you can be in Messenger and you can say you want a sticker of something. You want a hedgehog on a skateboard. You can say, give me a hedgehog on a skateboard, and it'll give you a sticker of a hedgehog on a skateboard. Don't you love that? Don't you just look? Here you go. Look, here they are. Look,
so great.
Knitting. Look,
this is going to change my world. Change my world.
They had Mark Zuckerberg talk about this on stage. Like this is
not released yet. I'm coding this tonight. And
this is not released yet, but it's coming soon. So they released then what they're calling their basic assistant, which they called Meta AI. So this is their ChatGPT, right? This is based on their Llama 2. This is their straight up AI chatbot. You can talk to it. You can ask it for pictures. You can do whatever. It's just like ChatGPT, but their version of it. It's like, oh, okay, kind of boring. Here's where it got even weirder than stickers. A universe of characters. This, in my mind, is absolutely insane. What do you guys think of this? You recognize people here, by the way?
Yeah.
Well, forget who they are, right?
Yeah.
Because that's not actually
that's
Chris
Sally.
Paul there.
I totally know Sally.
That's not him. That's not Mr. Beast. Hold on, that's Zach. That's not Paris Hilton. That's Amber. Okay. And Snoop Dogg when he went by, not Snoop Dogg.
Not Snoop Dogg.
That's not Tom Brady.
There's Tom.
So
Brady.
here's what they have. These are character-driven AIs. You can talk to them. So they have a role. Like the Snoop Dogg one, which they demoed on stage, is a dungeon master. So you can talk to him like you're playing a game of D&D. And he will answer you as a D&D dungeon master character.
They stole my idea. I have in my GitHub repo, I created a project which you give a description. It will create because I love Cyberpunk, a Cyberpunk character.
Yep,
and then
I remember you did this.
Yeah, and you could chat with them about like Cyberpunk stuff.
You know why yours didn't take off, Paul? You didn't have Snoop Dogg playing your Cyberpunk.
I didn't have Snoop
Cyberpunk
Dogg, yeah.
And Tom Brady wasn't interested.
Not a D&D Snoop Dogg. That's the key.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. Like, and I like all that stuff because I'm like obviously into tech. Like the one thing that I see the dangers of it, it's how's it going to impact kids if you already, let's say you're on social media, you're already not meeting most of your friends, maybe like, or you don't have the confidence to talk to everybody in person. And so you rely on talk to people online. And then let's say like someone bullies you online, that sucks, but you kind of have to learn to deal with that. But now you don't even have to learn to deal with that because you could have a curated friend experience who will always be nice to you and tell you and agree with you. And it's like, it's going to, like, I feel like it's going to segregate people even more, to be kind of okay to be alone, I feel like.
Yeah, you've got your ride or die sister in
in your pocket all the time.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
Sister.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I thought this was kind of interesting because they're not playing themselves in these characters either. There was a little they showed little video clips.
They're sort of close. Like I love Paris Hilton being crime solving detective.
I know. I'm sort of close, except Paris Hilton doing
but like Tom Brady's confident sports debater. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are close, and then some of them others, I'm like, what? Why are you really? That's the thing.
Yeah, I think it's cool, like fun little thing, like, and I think it's all going to be like, I can't think of the word where, it's like when the iPhone came out and the first like fart app came out, everyone's like, oh my god, this is so cool, but eventually you kind of got over it. So I wonder if this is going to be kind of.
I'm over this before it's even came out. I don't see myself ever using one of these. I just don't. Maybe that's just me. A general purpose AI to get general information out of it, I understand that. But this very specific character-driven AI that's got a persona, like unless it's like I don't have real friends. I mean, I guess I understand that part, but
there's an app Replica came out, and it's experienced on your iPhone, and they changed it, but it allows you to have like romantic like conversations. And there's stories of people like falling in love with AI, like their AI like avatar character. And when they updated it where they didn't allow as many like romantic conversation, people literally were heartbroken and really like felt devastated. And so you combine this with the idea I was like, joking about the room where Quest 3, where you could have an avatar in 3D take on these personas. And so like there's going to be no need to go and deal with real people because you could have a curated friend experience like in your 3D like avatar world. And I think that's kind of crazy because part of growing up, I feel like there's things you could control and there's things you can't. And sometimes how people respond to you, like I had someone say when I was like young, some girl goes like, you're stupid. And it's like kind of like hurt my feelings, but it's like, hey, this is kind of what I have to, that's how life is. And so you kind of grow a little backbone and you're like, okay, whatever, it's fine, and, so then I learned to code, then I got a good job and I make like good money. And then I don't know what she's doing right now, but I'm saying that's not the story. I don't care. Like, like it's a story. But, the point is like, we're going to all be living in a created fantasy world that's devoid of real people. And how do you teach your kids as a parent to like fight that? Like, because everybody's going to have it. One thing that I noticed, like parenting is really, really hard. And so I don't blame like parents because it's convenient. But I've seen sometimes where parents like, I need a moment. Like if you're a parent, you know what like that means. So, like, you're just like, I'm either going to choke someone right now or look at this iPod for 2 freaking minutes and leave me the hell alone. You know, like, like it's perfectly normal as a parent. They're like, oh my God. I had like, what, this was the funniest thing. Like, and somebody like called this mom out and like was like, how can she do this? But she has the sweetest boy named Max. He used to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then when she dropped him off, and as he turned around to go to class, like behind, she like gave him the finger, like, oh, like, you know, like what? Because he drove her crazy that day. And then one lady's like, oh my God, how can she do that? And I go to her, do you have kids? She's like, no. I'm like, then you don't.
Then you don't get it.
You don't get it. Like you got like, listen, God help you if you have no gray hairs, like going from 0 to 18, like Jesus Christ. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, like, what are people going to do?
What's so interesting as you were clicking through this, Kevin, like they've created Instagram profiles for them.
Yes,
and
yes,
like,
they have.
that is insane to me. Like, what is the point of like completely fleshing out these characters?
So one of the visions that they explained at the very beginning of the keynote, and I encourage everybody to go watch the keynote too, because it is at the very, very beginning. You can watch the first 5 minutes where he's sweaty and awkward and weird. One of the things they talked about he talked about these 3 kind of things where you're going to, it's like the world moving forward. Meta's view of the world moving forward is going to be real people mixed with virtual people. So like, I could talk to you, Sarah, and we could be on our AR headsets, and you could be a hologram next to me, but you're a real person on the other end, and you're in the other space, and we're talking back to each other. And then the third pillar was an AI person, was an AI presence that could also be there embodying somebody. It's a mix of those 3 things. That's the way they see the future.
That would never work.
Getting weird.
That would never work, and I'll tell you why. Is because if like if you're scrolling on TikTok, I don't use TikTok, but like if you're scrolling on TikTok, you're only getting highly curated like videos that you know you can't stop watching.
Yeah.
And there's an algorithm behind it. And that will always be more interesting because it knows exactly what you want. Your real friends, they're not going to always give you what you want. Like the people have moods, like, and so like, even if it starts where you have like your real friend and your AI friend, and you're interacting, at some point, people are just going to be like, well,
you're saying the AI friend's going to be better than the real friend.
Yeah, no, like, because they will never make you sad. Like, they will never make you unhappy. They're always going to tell you how good you are, how like, and they'll never be like, I don't want to play your stupid game. Get the hell, you know, like, I want to, whatever. Why don't you give me like, you know, I want to watch this. It's never going to happen. And so it's going to be this very, created, like experience where because everybody wants to feel like safe and comfortable and never get their feelings hurt. Mm-hmm. That doesn't exist in reality. That exists in these fake worlds. And so, like, as an adult, I understand that difference. But as children, they don't get it. And if they start young enough, like, interacting with these type of experience, they're going to get to a point where they're going to be dependent on, like, and they won't be able to have real friends because they don't know what it's like to deal with, diverse opinions.
What's funny you say that. Me, Coco, and Dungeon Master are hanging out this weekend. So that's
exactly the point. See, I'm not cool enough that you didn't even invite me. You see what I'm getting? You just proved my point. Oh,
hey,
God.
You can hang out with Max and Perry anytime you like.
No, screw Max and Perry.
So yeah, like when Paul was talking, I totally get that. It gives you a really distorted view of reality. And kids today are already like being so sheltered and so like, I don't want anything bad to happen to my child. And so when they get out into the real world, cannot even handle any sort of conflict or anything because, and I'm not saying do this on purpose, but if you misgender somebody and they completely lose their mind, that's not on you per se, like you didn't know or you didn't ask. And, maybe, part of that is on you, but they need to have a little thicker skin in order to handle the real world when they're interacting with real people who may not have the same views as them and need to be able to overcome that initial, harshness that's coming at them. Like there's going to be conflict. There's going to be things around them. And so the other thing sorry to keep going, but the other thing I thought of when Paul was talking is one of the Good Friends episodes is when they had free access to pornography. This is obviously before the days of actual free access to pornography everywhere. And they
it's free?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
You can cancel that subscription, Paul.
Yeah. But they were watching it all day because they didn't want to be the guys that turned off the free porn. And so they, they're going through the day and they're like, hey, somebody came over to deliver pizzas and they didn't ask to come inside. And, oh yeah, same thing happened to me. There was a female, a mail carrier, and she didn't ask oh, that looks like a big package or something like that. And they had such a distorted view of reality. And then they're like, oh man, we need to turn off the porn because it was just changing their whole perspective. So I could see the same kind of thing happening here where I'm interacting with these people who are never going to offend me or make me mad or do anything that is going to make me feel bad. And yeah, I'm going to interact with them more because I'm mad at my friend right now or, whatever. Or they don't have the same views as me. And this person gets me. It's like total grooming behavior, but it's from an AI.
And it's insane. And that's why, as a parent, and I don't have any young kids anymore. My daughter's 23. So but I still have these worries. If I did have a young kid right now, what things would I prioritize? And it's team sports, doing school activities, hanging out with other people, going and I would make it mandatory. And I see some parents, my kid is their own person. Let them make the decision. And of course, they're going to choose playing video games and staying online and whatever. And to me, I'm not going to tell them what to do, but I think you need to set certain boundaries where we're humans. We need to learn to interact with other humans, regardless if you like it or not. And to me, even though this is really cool and I like it, and I'm actually motivated to continue working on my cyberpunk character project that I was working on.
Yeah, you were onto something, Paul. Definitely.
That I'm going to, when the Quest 3 comes out, you better know that it's going to be 3D representation of my avatar. I'm just saying. But I'm going to take it all the way. But at the same time, for young kids who haven't kind of developed this, or they're still learning to engage with humans and learning about diversity and having a strong skin and thick skin to being it's so I could disagree with you and still be your friend. You know what? It's perfectly fine. And I feel stuff like that, it's going to be really hard for parents to fight. Cause I know their response would be you're the parent, you could set permissions. Yeah, but that takes so much effort and work, and your kids will still figure out how to, engage with that. So that to me, that's wild. I mean, if we're going to go, Skynet's happening, Matrix happening. I'm excited. All those dystopian things are happening. So we're moving in the right direction. Yeah, I will.
We need to bring back that the Skynet Watch section and do our maybe next. Maybe next
how happy everybody looks. By the way, nobody's this happy in real life. I mean, this is what's that? That movie or Family that was perfect. That the old TV show. That's not
Stepford
reality.
Wives?
Or sound, that was a movie, and then there's that was a good one. But there's an old show where it's a family show, but they're too perfect to be humans.
Brady
I forgot
Bunch?
what it was. Yeah, the Brady Bunch. No one's that in real life. Come on, and so it's a bunch of Brady Bunch characters. That's everything's nice.
It is. Maybe there's a reason these guys are in a grid with these color backgrounds like this. It's very Brady Bunch-esque, isn't it?
Although, looking at my background, look at my background. It's am I? It's I'm. Yeah, no, right. And I think they know what they're doing, and it's kind of crazy. So what I'm gonna do? Actually, I'm gonna do the same thing, but my avatars will like sometimes like say mean things to you just to keep you
perfect.
Just keep it real. Yeah,
keep it real. Like,
well, anyway, I'll let Coco know at the weekend to let you to if you want to hang out. That's cool. Like, and Dungeon Master will be by later. It's cool. It's all good. Okay. Before we move on to our null not null section, there's one thing I want to talk about. Last week, did you guys see the short that I put out last week for last week's show?
Yeah, the one where Paul is talking about the Roman Empire and how people should get a job.
So Paul, you apparently hit a nerve with this.
Of course
people
I
are
did.
mad at Paul.
Your hot take on this, oh man, it made people mad. We got comments, Paul. We got comments. So let me. So I don't know if you saw these, but let me read a couple of these to you.
Because I would go into the comments and straighten people straight. Straight. They're so upset.
I'll let you know.
First of all, let me just say this. First of all, not to defend myself in any way, like, do you know that 95% of the time I'm joking because I'm making entertainment value for the podcast? And if you didn't know that, I wasn't joking that time. You should probably get off your butt and get a goddamn job, because what the hell are you fantasizing about Roman damn empires?
Anyway, this guy here, Paul, said that he's employed here and life's just fun, stressing out or not stressing out all the time, and you have fun paying your bills. So take that.
Amen to him. And that's what I said. I never said it wasn't fun. I agree with him. What's the controversy in his statement?
You said probably didn't have a job anyway, so I took that, and that was my comment.
All right, okay, fine.
This guy also said, hot take, if you got time to gossip on a video chat, then what are you doing? And my response to that, we got time.
We got time.
First of all, we gossip. Like, listen, I gossip here. I talk a lot of trash.
Don't double down on
I
this.
make
We're gonna get more comments.
because people get upset. And you know what I do? Instead of going and fantasizing about Roman fantasies, I go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and I get my ass kicked. I get smashed. I come home, cry about it, and then I wake up and I go to work.
Paul, I tried to present this to you as an opportunity to apologize. What's happening here?
I am sorry.
Hey, hate interaction is the same as interaction.
But hold on a second. To my defense, I'll be honest. I'll concede here. So maybe I don't fantasize about Roman empires, but I do like cyberpunk, and I do fantasize about living in a cyberpunk dystopian society. So I guess it's fair, and I am employed, so it makes sense.
Fair. Yeah, listen, I just thought the comments were great. I
thank God I didn't see it, because I would get in trouble on Twitter. So, I mean, I hope everybody knows that this is, all in good fun. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
I hope they do too. But I took that little context. I took that little clip out of context.
Someone takes me seriously, that's on you. Like, if you're taking me seriously, that's on you.
Okay, let's move on to our recommendation section then. And null not nulls. Who wants to go first?
Teddy Ruxpin. I'm just kidding.
Is that a null or not null? I don't know in this day and age.
Both.
Go ahead, Sarah. What you got?
What I've got is I have a smart lock on my door, right?
Okay.
I got this quick set smart lock. But what I like about it is that it still has like a key, right? Because my husband isn't as on board with this smart home as I am. And so he wants to be able to like turn on and off the lights instead of having it automatically do stuff for you, or, automatically. So I don't like these keypad ones. I like just thumbprint. The other one I used to have was like, you just touch it. It doesn't even look like a smart device.
Yep, I know what you mean.
Yeah. And so I like the one that I've got is this Halo. So I don't know if you can see that one, like the Halo.
Okay, so it's just okay. Yeah, it's not on this website, which is interesting because I went to it literally says Halo.
Oh yeah, you should see the Halo. Yeah, that's weird.
I don't know.
You might have to find let's see, Halo Touch maybe.
Halo Touch.
Yeah, try Halo Touch. But yeah, so what I really like about it, it's got the key, but what's cool about the quick set stuff is you can rekey stuff on your own. So I have a key that opens up like the door between my garage and my home, and I don't want to have a different key for my front door. So I just use, that first one was that. Yeah, there we go. So I can rekey that to match the key that works on all the rest of my doors. So I can only have like one key for all my doors. Anyway, what I really like about it though is I can set it to automatically lock itself after, 1 minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Yep. Love that feature.
It's so great. Or I can, allow people access through the app on their phone. And, or if I'm away and somebody wants to borrow a DVD because I have like, hundreds of DVDs, I'm like, oh, here, let me just unlock the door and you can go in and grab the DVD and leave, So it's really nice to have that kind of control over your device. And I think I used to use this a little bit, but just through the garage. But you can set it up through Amazon where they can unlock the door and put your package right inside your door. And then it revokes their access automatically through Amazon.
It's weird giving them access to your house though, isn't it?
It is. That's why I never did my front door. I did allow them access to my garage, and I keep the lock between the garage and the house locked, and that was nice too. I mean, I live in a fine neighborhood. I don't, my packages don't get stolen on a regular basis. I'm usually home anyway. But it's nice to be able to just like, oh, okay, they can just put it inside my house instead of like on my doorstep.
Paul, what you got?
I got a Null. It's
about,
yay! Fantasizing about Roman empires.
Yeah.
It's people who leave comments on videos of that.
No, I'm just kidding. No, listen, yeah. But to me though, it's like very surprising that it was a thing. That's why I was like kind of having a good laugh about it. I was gonna say I don't know if I mentioned it before. My not Null, I got a second camera. It's Insta360. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Oh, that's what I have.
Oh, it's so awesome because
I love my camera.
I have cats, and when I hang out on Discord, a lot of people like, "Hey, show me your cat." And so like I have like the camera that just shows my cats on my desk sleeping, and because you could point it easily to where you want. And when you're presenting also, it has the ability to follow, and it's pretty cool. I really like it. So that's my not Null for today.
Yeah, that's the camera that I use as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And if you like presenting and you could have like a whiteboard behind you and it could kind of be aware of where it is, and it's pretty neat. Neat.
We use same ones at Coder Foundry too. Our instructors use these with exactly that whiteboard feature. They do this like gesture control thing, and then it zooms in on the whiteboard and it just shows the whiteboard. It's cool. It's these are definitely cool. Good for like you say, conferencing and teaching and that kind of stuff. And the gesture stuff is kind of interesting. I don't know if you've played with yours, Paul, but you'll often do the gesture incorrectly. Or just randomly you'll put your hand up and it'll all of a sudden start moving or not moving.
I've done that on the podcast before. So I've put my hand up and then it starts to track me and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to turn off that feature.
Yeah, it's good until you don't want it to be.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah, okay. I love that camera. Good job, Paul.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like it. My not know this week, I am going with an app. The app is called Just Watch. And the problem this solves, and I love the problem this solves, is I have way too many streaming services. There's way too much stuff getting pushed to them, and I have no idea what I've watched where, and I have no idea what's going to be new where and what's good where. So what this thing does is a couple things. I use it as a discovery service, but also as a tracking service as well. So it does both. So you can find a show and you can track it to start off with by episode. So you can say, oh, I've watched Ahsoka, the first 5, and I can mark off the first 5, and I know I'm on the 6th one. I'm like, oh, okay. I kind of know where I am with that on the app. But also for discovery, you tell it which services you're using, and it'll then give you, so you basically just give it a little on the web app here. I use the mobile app more. I don't use the web app. But you tell it which streaming services you have, and there's a lot of them. So you tell it which ones you have, and it'll basically curate what's down here based on what you have there. So it'll tell you what's hot today. It'll tell you just what's just got added to your services. It'll tell you the top across all of those services that you've given it. But then you can also go into individual services. So if I want to go into Disney, I can go just into what's new, and I can see what's new on Disney, and it'll show me what's new on the Disney service, or what's new on basically on all of them. I can combine them, Disney and Max and Prime, and I can see what's new on Disney, Max and Prime. And every day it shows you what gets added. It's great. And then what's popular, again, by all services or by whichever services you want, which is awesome. And then your watch list where you can keep track of them. And again, I use it on I'm not signed into this. I use it on the mobile app, but I use it more to keep track of stuff because I was like, I'll see a movie and I'll be like, oh, I want to make sure I see that. And then I'll be like, what service was that on again?
Right.
Was that on Paramount or Prime or Disney? Or I forget because there's so many of them. It's so fragmented. This is a way I can kind of bring it back together. You can't watch them on here. You can link out to them, but I use it just on the phone to be like, oh yeah, okay, it's on Prime, and I'll go look on Prime and I'll go find it there.
Yeah. So Plex has a Discover section that also will, like, if I type in a specific show, it'll tell me what streaming services it's available on. But cool. I really like this, especially when it's got like the top charts for all of them, especially for Discovery. Like that one's easy if I know exactly what I want, but I like this for Discovery. But
for Discovery, it's great.
It made me think of two nulls that I just remembered. One of them being Amazon Prime Video next year going to go ads, and then you can pay $3 a month if you want an ad-free experience. So
just
that's a
up
big
the
null.
rate already. Just tell me what it's going to cost me to not have ads, and I'll pay it. Like, don't try and just tell me what it's going to cost.
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter. Just and then I'll decide whether I want to pay for it or not.
Yeah. $3 a month.
So
like just up Prime like $30, and then and then keep it.
They can't
the
do
way
that because they're probably doing that as well. So
right, yeah, they're going to increase the Prime price, and they're going to charge you $3 a month if you want an ad-free experience.
Yeah. Again, it comes back to our conversation earlier. Like, it's just another place to watch ads. It's so bad. Even some of the services now where you can pay to remove the ads, including the Amazon one, by the way, they don't commit that they're going to fully remove ads. They still tell you that there's going to be some content will have ads in it. It's like they're not even fully paying to remove it. They're saying that there still will be content. Same with Hulu too. They say if you go for the ad-free version, they say some content will still have ads. It's like, what am I paying for then? Just less. I'm just paying for less ads, not to get rid of the ads.
Well, yeah, I mean, because there are ads already on Prime content. Like if you watch the NFL on Thursday nights, they have ads, in the NFL game. So there is content that already has ads like that. So I think that's the kind of stuff. Yeah. What?
I'm sure that's staying. That you can still,
that's what I'm saying.
Even if you pay this $3, you're still gonna get that ad.
Right. That's why. That's what I'm saying. Like. Yeah. Even this ad-free experience, that's why they say like some content will still have ads. It's the same content that has ads right now, I think.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So yeah, that's for sure a null. And then the other null is the fact that Google's getting rid of Google Podcasts, and I'm mad as poop about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. What's your alternative? I mean, people that is there nobody using it? I don't know.
Yeah, I love Google Podcasts. I use it daily. So I'm so mad about it.
There must not be a user base for it. I mean, I guess that's I don't know what their maybe. I mean, I don't know what would be their threshold, right? I mean, there obviously are people that use it. It's the native app, right? Is it pre-installed?
I don't think it's pre-installed, but it's it's the podcast app for Google. Like
it does seem weird to be getting out of it because I would say podcasts are becoming more popular. It seems like.
Well, they're moving it into YouTube Music, which is a terrible platform.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, no.
That's why.
Please, no. I don't want to, because I used to use Google Music before it became YouTube Music. Like, that was my music platform of choice. And then they turned into YouTube Music, and it was terrible. So I moved over to Spotify, and now they're taking away my podcast app, too. And I'm very, very mad about it.
Spotify's podcast, you're going to move there. I guess move everything there now. I don't know. You're a jinx for these services. So,
I am. I so am. Like TV shows, serial. Like I am a jinx. If I like something, it is going away.
Okay, well, that's it. That's it for this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast. Thanks everybody for hanging out. As always, please leave us a review if you haven't. Please leave us a like somewhere if you're watching this on YouTube. You send us an email. What's that email address, Sarah?
It's the Not Null Podcast at AOL.com.
That is correct. We are currently inbox 0, by the way, and that's not because we've cleared it out and we're productivity gurus. It's because nobody's mailed us to it. Please, somebody, I need to check it. Somebody please mail me so I can check it.
Yeah.
Email me something and I'll read it out next week. Yeah. Doesn't matter what it is, I'll read it out.
You can complain about Paul, making fun of your
send
job.
all the complaints. Send all the
about
complaints.
it all you want.
We'll read them online and
That's
get
not
my
Null
all
Podcast.
complaints go to.
Yeah,
the
not
Null Podcast at AOL.com.
Somebody has to be the villain, right?
Right.
So
That's it. We'll catch everybody next week.